update, remember?
Okay. We're going to do it without Darren?
You haven't heard?
No.
Oh, wow.
What happened?
Okay. Well, grab a seat and I'll explain.
Okay.
Go ahead and shut that door. There.
Are we throwing him under the bus?
Well, he's kind of late under the bus.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Poor old Darren. Darren's, well, we'll get into it.
Okay.
All right. So, welcome to the week 6 recap. I'm Rick DeBanks.
Dave McGregor.
And as you can see, we have a missing person. That's Darren. What happened is, anybody that's been watching this knows that Darren has struggled, right?
That's a good way to say it.
That's a diplomatic way to say it, I guess. Yeah. And he's been battling some demons. He's really challenged by saying no to certain foods, right? And for those of you that don't know, this last weekend was the Canadian Thanksgiving, and Darren kind of went off the rails a little bit. Put it this way: he was barricaded in his room with pumpkin pie, turkey, whipped cream, a turkey baster, some oil, stuffing. What else? You saw what he was eating, didn't you? You got a glimpse of it.
Cranberries.
Cranberries. Beer, probably.
Yeah, lots of beer.
Yeah, lots of beer. And I went to go get him this morning, and he was essentially in the fetal position. And he couldn't believe what he had done, right? He was like, oh, what did I do? What did I do? No. And yeah, so I said, okay, look, man, we won't do a weigh-in this week, okay? Take a few days to just put the fork down. Finish your leftovers or whatever else you have. Yeah. And he's a mess, man.
Yeah, did he weigh himself at all?
He's afraid to. He won't go near a scale.
Okay.
He won't go near a scale, but he's definitely looking really bloated, and his belly is like way out there, man.
Oh, shit.
So yeah, it looks like we may have to have an intervention. Can you do an intervention for food?
Yeah, I guess you can be addicted just like anything else.
How would you do it?
We're concerned about your health. Your overeating affects me in this way.
Yeah. We're taking you straight from here to another location. You're not going to have a Twinkie or tuxedo cakes or anything for 30 days.
Yeah.
Huh.
Didn't you do that to him once?
Yeah, I did actually. I hijacked him on a road trip, and I took him with me, and I had to watch him every second too, man. This guy, like, he'll get a coffee, right? And he'll sneak around the store and find some of that flavored cream, and he'll put the flavored cream in, and he'll squirt some honey in if you're not watching. He's got he loves starchy foods, and he loves sugar, and his behavior, he needs a strong hand grabbing him by the scruff of the neck saying, eat that, don't eat that, right? Otherwise, he's just got no willpower. Yeah, he drops into that fetal position, and everybody's got their masters, right? And his is a brown, sweet, syrupy master, chocolate. It just kind of runs his life, I guess, for now. So that's kind of a depressing way to start the show, right?
I guess so, yeah.
So,
but I think we're doing okay.
Yeah. Well, I told him out of respect to him, we wouldn't have a weigh-in, so we'll give him another full week, which is hard on me because I think, oh fuck, man, maybe I can sneak in a carb up here, right? But no, I'm gonna stick to the path. And so what we're gonna do instead is I've compiled a list of questions that I get the most from people that are on the Burner Blueprint or just taking Burner by itself or trying to follow a ketogenic diet. So there's 9 questions here, and Dave, if you have any, you can throw them in.
Great. I'll think about it.
Which one should we? Here, you read them out.
Let's just tackle it from the top, man.
Okay.
Okay. Question 1. When to take burner?
Burner should be taken in the morning. Burner suppresses your appetite, and in the morning you're already fasted because you've gone the entire night without food. So one good way to extend that is by taking burner, which will blunt your appetite, and it helps facilitate the transport of fatty acids. So the morning.
Okay, right on. I usually take mine because I'm doing fasted exercise. So I take my pre-workout in the morning, and then I have a protein shake after, and I usually take burner shortly after that. Just so I'm suppressed my appetite for the rest of the day there.
The next best time to take it would be if you have a particular time in which you like to binge, or when hunger becomes more of an issue for you, like say the evening, then I would take it then. So there's some flexibility. I think ideal is, first thing in the morning probably.
Okay. So what is a ketogenic diet?
Okay, a ketogenic diet is a diet that induces ketosis. What's ketosis? Well, your body is like a machine, and it has its preferred fuel source. Think of these fuel trucks you've seen driving down the road with the big tank on the back that's full of gas, right?
Yep.
Like a gas truck. Well, they don't use that to run the truck, right? They use what's in their own gas tank, which holds maybe 100 gallons. Meanwhile, they have 1,000 gallons on the top, right? Our body is the same sort of way. The primary fuel for the body is glycogen from the liver and from the muscles. And all right, sorry, we just had a brief interruption from Darren. He's in panic mode, but anyways, as I was saying, so if you think of a fuel truck, it has 1,000 gallons of fuel that it drives around with, but that's not what it uses to power itself. It uses just its fuel in its tank, like a 100-gallon tank. And the body is the same way. Your body has, at any given time, probably about, call it 3,000 calories worth of energy in the form of glycogen stored in your muscle and your liver and circulating throughout your body. It's human starch essentially is what it is. And once that depletes itself, then your body kicks over into its secondary reserve, which is stored body fat. And that's kind of like a secondary fuel source. The same way that if, that same truck ran out of gas, its tank ran dry, it could just tap into that big tank above, right? And what ketosis is your body, it takes fatty acids and it transforms them into these energy units called ketones, right? So ketones are, they're extremely energy rich. That's why a lot of people, once they are in ketosis, the brain functions really well on ketones. Their energy, because you have a constant supply of fat. Like I said, for glycogen, you may only have 3,000 calories worth of energy at any given time. Whereas if you have even 10 pounds of body fat, that's 35,000 calories of energy, right? So there you go. So that's what ketosis is. That's what a ketogenic diet is. It's basically when you switch from burning carbohydrates for energy over to burning fatty acids in the form of ketones for energy.
I like that analogy. Well put. And who created the burner blueprint?
I did. But it's basically, I've taken something that already exists. I don't want to take credit for, the ketogenic or the cyclical ketogenic diet. The ketogenic diet has been around for a long time. It was originally, in its modern form, it's over 100 years old, and it was developed as a method of treating
epilepsy, right?
Yeah, kids with epilepsy. They were on a super high fat diet. They were feeding them kind of like straight cream. It was like 90% fat and 10% protein, their diet. And they found it to be very effective with these kids. And that was kind of the start of the ketogenic diet. Of course, Robert Atkins did a lot of research into that, starting, I think, around the late 60s. And he came up with the Atkins diet, which was a low, I don't think it was really ketogenic. It was more a low carb diet, although he did have an induction phase, and then he kind of gradually introduced carbs after that. When the around the 1980s is when we saw performance-oriented ketogenic diets or cyclical ketogenic diets. The first person to come up with this, well, I guess there's some debate. There's a guy named Dan Duchesne and Michael Zumpano, I think it is. They came out with I think they called it the rebound diet, and it was sort of a 10-day ketogenic diet, and then followed with a carb up. And then a power lifter named Mauro Di Pasquale came up with what was called the anabolic diet, which was 5 days of low carb and then a 2-day carb up. And then in the 90s, a guy named Dan Duchesne again, the same Dan Duchesne, and modified the ketogenic diet, the cyclical ketogenic diet, into what he called Body Opus. And to me, Body Opus was really the groundbreaking the groundbreaking iteration of the cyclical ketogenic diet. And what he had is he had ultra low carb for 5 days, and then he specified the type of workouts that were best suited. So prior to a carb up, when you're exercising, your body takes energy. Like if you're taking fat for energy, your body will take it from all over your body for energy. Whereas if you're doing say you're doing shoulder press, that depletes the carbohydrates in your shoulder. Like the actual muscles you're using deplete the carbohydrates. So what you can do is when you're ready for a carb up, let's say wherever you want the greatest injection of carbohydrates into your muscles, those are the ones you work. So for example, if you do curls to exhaustion and you burn out all the rest of the glycogen in your biceps, and then you carb load, it goes straight to your biceps, right? And it has a really powerful anabolic and hormonal effect. It creates what's called glycogen supercompensation. So if you have X amount prior to depleting your carbs, and then you completely deplete them in a glycolytic exercise, then it will be X plus more, X plus 10% or something like that. Because the muscles, after they've done that kind of workout, they just soak up all the carbs. And that also has a hormonal response. It has a real anabolic response to your whole body. So that's kind of the evolution. And with the Burner Blueprint, there's a few modifications that I've put in there that just give it a little bit of flexibility so that it's not just applicable to bodybuilders, right? The Body Opus was really sort of geared towards bodybuilders. So I've kind of modified it so if people just want to do some sort of moderate weight training, they can do it. If they're more into powerlifting, it'll fit with that. And if they want to kind of carb load each workout, they can do that as well. And there's another guy, his name's D.H. Kiefer, who's done some good work on this as well. He came up with Carb Night, which is essentially the same as the anabolic diet. And he's done carb backloading as well, which kind of targets carbs specifically after workouts, which is, I can recommend them all. They're all good.
Cool. This one hits home for me. Can I drink alcohol?
Yeah, it's not ideal. Yes, you can. If you drink alcohol, your body metabolizes the alcohol first. So everything else is kind of put on hold while you metabolize the alcohol. So you can have it, but it'll more than likely it'll interrupt your ketosis if you're in ketosis. It's not the end of the world, though.
Yeah, I've been drinking low carb occasionally on this.
That's what I do. I drink low carb beer, and you know it takes a little getting used to. It's not obviously it's not as good as a full on regular beer, right?
Yeah.
But it's like anything else. Once you get used to it, it's fine, right?
Yeah, I haven't had any problems with. Well, I haven't really gone too crazy on the ketosis, but it does mess up my energy a little bit. I definitely feel a little off at the gym the next day, even if I have one or two. So
yeah,
if you're going hard, I'd probably try and stay away from it. But
yeah,
artificial sweeteners.
Yeah, artificial sweeteners are okay in moderation. There's some evidence that artificial sweeteners will elevate your insulin as well. Not to the same degree as sugar, but there is an insulinic response from them. So artificial sweeteners are okay. I've used them while ketogenic, and it's the the negative effects aren't great. But yeah, I would just say use them in moderation.
That's stuff like sucralose.
Yeah,
And
sucralose.
aspartame.
And,
Okay. And what are net carbs?
yeah. Okay, so net carbs are the actual carbs that your body will process. For example, you may see items that are advertised as low carb, right? And then you look and it's like 20 grams of carbs, but 2 grams of net carbs, right? And what that means is your body is only processing the 2 grams of net carbs. The other stuff, it doesn't process. Like, for example, fiber. Fiber is a carb, but it essentially just passes through your body, and it has a net zero impact in terms of glycogen storage and in terms of insulin. So net carbs is the key number that you want to watch. If something has high carbs, but it's all fiber, like let's say there's 10 grams of fiber and only 2 grams of net carbs, then you're fine.
The other one I see a lot is sugar alcohol.
Sugar alcohol, same sort of thing, only without the benefits of fiber. Sugar alcohols pass through your system and aren't processed as sugar.
Do I have to carb up?
No, you don't. So what I like to say is whether you're ketogenic, cyclical ketogenic, or targeted ketogenic depends on how fat you are. So the fatter you are, I'd say you're better off going long-term ketogenic. And you know what? I wouldn't go so long that you don't ever carb up. Carving up has some benefits, like it raises your metabolism. Like I said earlier, it has some hormonal benefits, especially if you time it on the back end of some training. But essentially, the leaner you are, the more tolerant you're going to be to carbs, and the more effective they'll be if you're looking at gaining muscle. So if you're, it's like a spectrum. Lots of fat to lose, less concerned about muscle, more ketogenic. More concerned about muscle, less fat to lose, more targeted carb up.
Okay. How should I work out while on the burner blueprint?
Well, it's flexible. You can really do anything, except if you're doing what's called a glycolytic workout, which is anything that's a duration of I don't know, like say, I don't know what the exact second count is, but like say 15 seconds or maybe 10 seconds, even up to a minute. That would be considered a glycolytic workout. Lower than that, like say 5 seconds, like 1 rep, right? That's an ATP workout where you're just burning up ATP. Longer than that is when you really depend on the muscle glycogen for energy, and when you go longer than maybe a minute or 2 minutes, then you're more using fat reserves for energy. So if you are going to do a glycolytic workout, that's where you're going to struggle in the absence of carbs. So you either want to carb up after, or you want to have some carbs in your system prior to doing a workout like that. So ideally, in the burner blueprint, the ideal system would be, let's say if you're either doing endurance training is fine. It's ideal actually on a ketogenic diet. Or doing a sort of a powerlifting style workout at any time, and then doing a glycolytic workout right before you carb up. Does that
makes sense?
Yeah.
I've been doing a lot of glycolytic workouts, but
Yeah, but you're doing you're targeting your carbs, right?
yeah.
Yeah, that's when it works really well.
Lots of people don't know how to do a powerlifting sort of workout. I think you might want to elaborate on that.
Well, like I said, a powerlifting style of workout is a slower pace, right? Like maybe 2 minutes between sets, lower rep counts. Like you don't want to be, your lift should be done in 10 seconds, right? If you're doing
so maybe like the 5x5. we were talking
Yeah,
about
like
before.
3 reps. I guess maybe 5 reps at the most. Yeah, and that's using ATP for energy, right? Like I said, longer than that, and then you can rest while you're doing it. If you're getting branched chain amino acids or creatine, those will be helpful as well. And like I said, if you are doing something longer than that, it would benefit you to either have carbs in your system prior to that longer glycolytic. Think of a pump type workout, or to carb up immediately afterwards.
I like it. And okay, how low should my carbs be?
The initial phases, you want your carbs as low as possible. To get into ketosis, you probably need them under 30 grams a day. That's considered ultra low carb. Once you've switched over to burning fat, and one way to check that is to check your ketone strips when you take a piss. You can hold them in the stream if you got nothing better to do. And if they turn that color, then that means there's ketones in your urine. So that means you're in ketosis. And then your tolerance for carbs will come up a little bit, right? So you don't necessarily need to be ultra low carb to stay in ketosis. You can, if 30 grams or less is ultra low carb, you can kind of bump it up if you need to like 40 or 50 and probably still stay in ketosis, right? But over 30 is just is low carb. From 30 to about 100, I'd say, is 100 grams a day is low carb, and under 30 is ultra low carb, which is ketogenic.
Great. I think that's the end of the questions, man.
All right, so there you go. We have answered a few of your questions. We've spilled out our hearts on Darren, right?
Yeah.
And poor Darren even tried to call during this, so maybe he's having second thoughts. But we'll bring that chubby body in next week, and we'll get him on the scale, and we'll start getting some results for him as well. He's had a lot of trouble getting started. That's kind of the issue with him. And also, we have a new video series coming up called Power Junkie, and this is it's gonna be for really every level of lifting. If you just want to increase your strength, so we'll start off with getting started stuff for beginners, and then keep moving up to more advanced stuff. Like the conjugate training system, all sorts of things like that. So watch for that. It's called Power Junkie.
Right on.
Yeah. Is that it?
I think so.
До свидания.